Right. Next up, we are going to have Sibahle, who is here to basically have a fireside chat with us. Sibahle Mabaso, who's also in Bloemfontein with me. So for the first time, even though we are
Yes.
virtually, I'm with somebody in the same seat, which is really nice. Hi Sibahle, how are you?
Hi, Ria. I'm well, excited, nervous, happy to be here with everyone. But I'm well. How are you?
I'm also I'm good. I'm good. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Good.
So please, Bashe, tell us a little bit about yourself, about the work that you do, and especially what inspires you right now.
Sure. So, obviously, we need to start introducing ourselves with labels, and that is I'm a multidisciplinary theatre maker. I'm an educator. I am also an assistant researcher here at the Center for Teaching and Learning at the University of the Free State. But more than anything, here I'm just in my capacity as an artist, a director, playwright, and performer. And I love to say a trier, so someone that tries despite. I am constantly trying. I think that's just who I am as a person more than, the titles that we give ourselves or that are allocated to us. I am a trier, I'm an artist, I'm a feeler, and someone that really just tries to tell stories on behalf of other people for other people as well. If I were to sum it up like that, yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's a very amazing way to to actually say it's trying, always
Mm.
trying new things, and I guess being a lifetime learner, I guess, and
Being
always learning
yes,
something new.
yes.
But can you share some insight for us about where you were born and how essentially your childhood was like for you? So we have some background on what made you you.
Yeah, so I was born in a small town. Bethlehem isn't really a small town, but I was born in a small city over the holidays, December holidays, 1999. My mom had come this
Mm.
side to visit her family, but I was raised in Esport in KZN, in a township, Ewembezi. So that's kind of what, formed my foundation. So obviously we know that, townships have a high rate of crime and so on and so forth. But I was so fortunate enough that my parents worked super hard to give me a good education throughout. So from preschool all the way till high
Mm.
school. That's kind of where I got exposure, obviously, to the arts. We have art and culture, we have all of those things. But I'm happy to say that although there were challenges that we face, so financial and otherwise, other challenges that happen, in marriages and family things, I had a childhood that really groomed me to be who I am today in the sense that it made me or taught me what we have as South Africans, a foundation of Ubuntu, taught me how to live
Mm.
with other people. And I kind of just brought that into my work when I did realize that I want to do this work. Yeah, and that's basically it. I'm a township girl who was never really in the township because I was in boarding school. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a township girl. I'm a township girl. I connect myself to that quite deeply. Mm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
speaking from the fact that you are a township girl, I know exactly what that is like. Trust. I
Mm.
actually lived in Bethlehem for a bit, so I kind of understand the
Really?
atmosphere. Yeah, small world. But I just wanted to understand that because of the fact that the way township living is, it's very rare for you to find opportunities to be exposed to theater and
True.
the arts in that. So, what
True.
was your first exposure to theater and the field of arts and health?
True, that is very true. So it had to be at school, had to be in preschool. I think we had a production, I think it was it called Mr. Sun? I don't know, but I was playing Mr. Sun. I remember that. So my exposure to arts was basically through plays, obviously at school, when they'd say, okay, all the grade R's need to be involved in a play, all the grade threes need to be doing a play. And I was also nervous about it and never really wanted to do it, but I did it anyway, and it felt good to form part of something big and to see how it made other people feel as well and to see how it built ensemble amongst people. So it was always something that I reluctantly did, but I always found myself going back to it. It's school. Because like you're saying, the township, there isn't much exposure, sorry, to such things. So School had to be the platform that showed me, oh, these are the things that you can experience, Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. So, basically, that exposure in school pretty much ignited your love for the arts and theater
Mm,
and so forth.
mm.
All right, I completely understand that. So now that you were exposed at an early age in school, right, that had to obviously grow and develop into something else, right? And there has to be
Yes,
something that continues to motivate you to keep doing what you do now,
yes.
because it's not in the arts. So what essentially inspires you to do what you do? And how's the journey been, essentially?
I think I'm such a fan of education because I'm going to keep talking about school, but I think in being in a school environment has really taught me how important it is to be able to tell stories, right? And what they do for people. I want to reference intersectionality because I am marginalized, you are marginalized, right? We marginalized individuals. So my, let me say, professional or higher education exposure to theater showed me the importance of telling marginalized stories, of speaking for those that are not spoken about when you step into an industry and you see that it caters to only a certain group of people. So when I went into drama or theater, I wanted to be a drama teacher. That was what I had set out to do. And then I found myself, I'm now doing honors, I'm now doing my master's, and I haven't yet stepped into that yet because I was now spending time seeing how I want to tell stories about people like myself. So that then became a newfound passion. I want to be able to show how women in the LGBTQIA plus community are treated in South Africa. I want to bring that, because that's my lived experience as well. And when I go to the theater, I don't see that happening around me. Do you get what I mean? So that's kind of the newfound passion. It's very new. It's very, very recent, but that's kind of been the journey in terms of that. Yeah.
Right,
Hmm.
that's very inspiring, especially because for me as well, trying to tell queer stories and stories
Mhm.
about BIPOC individuals, a huge aspect of why I do the things I do.
Mhm.
But I wanted to know, what is the one major impact story? We all have an impact story, right?
Yeah.
In your work that you can't stop talking about, like the same way you just spoke about the LGBTQI community, or whether
Mm.
or not it's telling stories about you as a Black woman. What's the major impact story that makes sure that you keep doing what you're doing?
My favorite story, and one thing that kind of validated that this is what I want to do. In 2022, Um, I approached the Art and Culture office here at the University of the Free State and I asked them, I said, listen, I'm keen to do work. Let me know if there's anything, any projects. I'm always trying to practice what I've learned, because you learn something, it's good to practice it, put it on the floor, see if you can do it, see how you can teach other people as well in the process. Then they approached me for a production. They said, we want to do Sarafina by Dr. Mbongeni Ngema. And I said, why do Sarafina? Because we have our own version of Sarafina happening now, post 1976, because we've been having strikes on campus. Students have been hungry because of government funding, all of those things. So then we decided, okay, we're going to tell a story, which is a broken Sarafina. We're going to audition students from different faculties. So students who wouldn't necessarily be involved in the arts, students who know nothing about the arts, students who haven't seen a theater piece at all. So we then went out into the faculties, and so it's all faculties, theology, health, and so on and so forth. And we auditioned these students, and then we formed our cast. And now a major part of that for me was that even though I am not necessarily a drama teacher in the capacity that I thought I would be, I still got to share the skills that I'd learned thus far with those students. We had a good show. We had a good show. Dr. Mbongeni Ngema even came to the show, and they are avid theater makers. I think more than half of them are creating their own works now, are interested in coaching other people as well. They had no theater background. They got to showcase at a festival. Now they are interested in the arts. Now they're always asking Siba, tell me if there's a production. Siba, when can I audition for a show? I had one of my cast members who were there who recently approached me and said that I really want to study drama. That experience taught me about my passion and, the impact of that work. So for me, I hold that very dear to my heart, that we were putting on a show not necessarily according to the standards of good or bad theater, but we were telling a story that was relevant to students, with students who had gone through it as well. And in the process, it was a learning process. And now we have at least 10 people who are now contributing to the arts industry in various ways, who before knew nothing about the arts, So that for me was very validating and affirming in terms of the work that I do. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's really, because I actually did catch Broken Sarafina. I was still working with the
Did
Festival of
you?
Fragrance at the time. Yeah, so I did manage to catch it. But I get what you're meaning by saying that it wasn't necessarily good or bad theater in terms of the academic way of looking at it, or in the structural way of looking at theater specifically. But it did kind of tap into your attitude as a teacher, as somebody who wants to put skills. So as a recipient of Nobel recognition, how are you paying it forward? Because it's okay for us to have recognition, but how do you pay it forward? And yes, we can talk a little bit about therapy and how you paid it forward in that, but how do you pay forward what it is that you know and the work that you do?
Thank you for that. I like that question. But obviously, Broken Sarafina is a good example of that as well. I try as much as I can, at least, to be involved, not necessarily in a student production, but to work with students, because I'm very passionate about the youth development as well. And also, sometimes when you have a platform, Ria, you realize that you would have appreciated to know someone like that when you were that age, or when you were in that space. Yes. So I try to pay it forward in that way. And I'm very intentional about who I work with. So I'm very intentional about working with people who are still learning, just like I'm learning. I'm very intentional about working with women, primarily Black women. Very, very intentional about that, writing stories for, or having people that work for me in tech who are people who come from the same backgrounds as us. So very, very intentional about the stories that I tell and the people that I invite to have a seat at the table, because I know that I would still appreciate a seat at the table in that sense. So that's how I pay it forward, I would say. I'm now trying, even though I have this thing of, do I know enough to even be mentoring other people? I'm now trying to mentor other people as well. If I have an opportunity, I share it with other people. I open up and hold space for other people to come to me as well, and for me to teach them what I know thus far. Even though I have my doubts and I feel as if, I'm not trained, I'm not skilled, because I'm also constantly in mentorship. But at least bringing people with you as you progress is a major, major thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Bringing people forward and giving people a seat at the table, because we know how difficult it is to have our own seat at the table in any way, shape, and form. But now that you are finally accepted as part of the Global Arts and Medicine Fellowship, right? What additional changes or differences are you going to make, or do you want to make, specifically in South Africa and beyond? What changes do you want to make?
What changes do I want to make? I think accessibility is a big thing. In November/December of last year, I was working with one of my closest friends, and who's also a practitioner, Butumelorit. She took a project to Pelindaba, which is a township as well here, big township in Bloemfontein. She did Bantu Tales, so it was a skills development thing. And I was in the pilot phase of the process. And that's something that I'm really, really passionate about, skills development. So if there were to be an opportunity to use the resources that come from being part of this fellowship, it's how do I then take that work, collaborate, and take that into communities? Because it's one thing for us to put something up in the city, have those numbers and say, great, we did a good job. There are still people in the city who need that, but it's another thing to go into areas where people don't want to step into and share what you have and work with the resources that they have and combine and teach and leave people with something that they can utilize, or give them tools, or even change their lives in a way that you have given them space or held space for them to be seen. They know that the arts are now creative output. They know that the arts are now a way for them to understand their lived experience, you know? So if there was something that I would change, its accessibility as well as the availability of funds for us to do this, the support that we can get to be able to do this, to do passion projects and take them into the communities. Because it's lovely, man, to put up work in the metropoli. It's amazing. But after I was involved for that short while in Bantu Tales, I saw that it's even a greater thing to be able to go into a community that no one sees potential in and bring life to there. And community, do that community building and engagement with the people there. Yeah. Easier said than done. Easier said than done. But we definitely need more support networks when it comes to bringing work into communities like that. Yes, because more often than not, those are the communities that need for us to integrate.
Yeah, that's very true. That's really, really true. Yeah, and I'm glad that you're taking the steps, obviously, to go into the Global Arts and Medicine Fellowship so you can learn some of these ways in order to integrate. And one of the most important things I think you're going to learn as part of the Global Arts and Medicine Fellowship is resilience, right? And how basically you can go into a community and already tap into resources that exist instead of waiting for resources. But we know that in this world there's a lot of competition, and because of the fact that we live in such a competitive atmosphere, we're competing for funding, we're competing for all of these different things. What do you think about collaboration, and how can collaboration be meaningful and and how can we create meaningful and respectful cross-cultural collaborating within different cultures and cultures that you didn't even think you could probably collaborate with? How important is that in this atmosphere of competition all the time?
We are in a very competitive industry, I'm not going to lie, because, you know, there's only so much funding. We are all trying to get a gig. We're all trying to put out work. But I do believe that at the end of the day, what we do, as soon as we realize that what we do is not for ourselves, but for others, then we are able to then come together for the better good. Because it's only this year that I actually realized how important it is to collaborate, because a lot of my peers and I have been saying, oh, we're waiting for funding, we're waiting for work, we're waiting for this, we're waiting for that. And then we're like, but guys, we can do it without. We can do it without. It's just a matter of seeing that you, Rea, are good at this. I am good at this. Let's sit down and make this happen, you know? And I think coming from a place of realizing that you are privileged, it's good for us to realize that we are privileged to be able to sit here with a computer, with Wi-Fi, and be able to have a conversation. Those are resources that other people don't have. Realizing our privilege and the resource that we have at our disposal will then ultimately allow us to see how we can make things happen for other people using just what we have, right? So I'm not really competitive when it comes to the work that I do, because I also am a firm believer that when it's my time, it's my time. When it's supposed to be mine, it's supposed to be mine. But I've come to realize that certain things that I want to achieve, and if I really want to do art for the benefit of other people and not for my own self-fulfillment or to be put on high regard, I need to be able to reach out to Rea, say, Rea, you have good experience in art administration. Can you please advise me? Rea, let's come together and do this thing. Yes, we need to put food on the table. Food on the table will come. But at the end of the day, we need to open up to see that we are better. And it sounds, excuse me, very cliche and la-di-da. But we are better if we bring forth all that we have, all the resources that we have, to work for other people. I don't know, I'm not articulating this well enough because it sounds super cheesy, but it's true. Once you realize that you're in a place where you can activate and cultivate change for other people, you realize that it's not for you. You know, what we do is not for us. And yeah, I'm not competitive, so I can't really answer the question fully, but I'm open to collaboration. I'm excited about collaboration. I've seen collaboration breed a lot of good and positive things for people. We've seen collaboration in various forms. We've seen collaboration in protests. We've seen collaboration in classrooms. So yeah, I think it's a good thing for us to be able to form those bonds. And for me, this is the first experience going into arts and medicine, joining these two very different fields and seeing how they can each inform each other, seeing how your experience as someone that is in Hungary can teach me about how to cultivate change in my society. Yeah, the more diverse we are, the better we can actually understand what it means to be human. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Perfect sense. And what you just said actually reminded me of something Dr. Rea Mokone has said. He's always saying that actors are too much in a hurry to become stars, right? Yep. And first you become an artist and be professional in everything you do, and then everything else will come afterward. So I think it's really nice in that perspective. Well, for my last question of the day, before I let you go, right, I'm telling everybody that my main dream is to be a drama therapist. That's what I want to do in my life. Right? So anyone who knows me knows I want to be a drama therapist, and I'm currently in the journey to do that. So what is your biggest dream? What is that one thing that kind of means like that's it for you? What is your biggest dream?
And it's possible, Rea, for you to be that. It's possible. It was also a dream of mine once. But what I'm going to say is I have different dreams depending on where I am in life, So if you would have asked me a year or two ago, I'd have told you I want to register a company to, do skills development within the communities. But now that I am putting out work and more people want to put out work in our space, I would really, really love to start an independent theatre space that isn't just for producing theatre works in Bloemfontein specifically, because we don't have that. We are super reliant on our state theatres, that has workshops, that has reading rooms, that has libraries. A small library doesn't have to be anything big, but an independent theatre space that can house artists. That's kind of like my current dream at the moment. And who knows, maybe we can have a drama therapist in that space as well. And artists can come and have access to that drama therapist, So that's kind of call you. That's kind of where I am now. I still want to have that skills development company is something that I was really hoping for. But where I am right now would be lovely to have an independent theatre space where artists can come, experience their work, build it in a way that they want to build it as well, share their needs, and kind of let that space be dynamic and responsive to the needs of artists, because that's exactly what I need at the moment, So seeing what is the gap right now in our industry. Once again, easier said than done, but that's kind of where my heart is. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sibahle.
Thank you.
So happy that we got a chance to. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts in the sci-fi chat. And yeah, we're going to continue on with our program. And next we have